I will now call the January 17th, 2017 City Council meeting to order. If you would stand, we're going to have Troop 175 from Timothy Lutheran come up. If you guys want to go ahead and make your way up to the podium, podium there. We're going to first observe a moment of silence, and when I turn around and look at you, that means that you can start the pledge. Got it? All right. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated. Thank you, Troop 175. I want to welcome you in attendance as well as those that might be watching on cable TV tonight's City Council meeting. Next, we have the consent agenda. Are there items that need to be pulled? If not, I accept the motion for approval.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilman Quibell?
Aye.
Councilman Levesey? Oh, I'm sorry. Councilman Fowler?
Aye.
Councilman Carter?
Aye.
Councilman Edmondson?
Aye.
Councilman Culpepper? Aye. Mayor Ross?
Aye.
Carried unanimously.
Next, we'll accept a motion to continue the public hearing from the December 19th meeting until the February 21st City Council.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next, we have a public hearing on presentation of the 2015-16 Tax Increment Financing and Economic Development Incentive Update. That's a mouthful.
Mayor, the city has one exhibit to enter the record. City Council information form from Christine Cates, Assistant City Administrator, with the following attachment. Notice of public hearing is advertised in the Examiner on December 20 and 27, 2016, and January 3rd and 10th, 2017, and TIF and Economic Development Incentive Update PowerPoint presentation. This is all we have to offer for the record.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Cates. On behalf of the city.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. This is our 4th annual update for the tax increment financing projects and other economic development projects within the city of Blue Springs. We also now include as part of this presentation updates on the South Area Neighborhood Improvement District and the Land Bank of Blue Springs. Tonight we also have joining us from the Finance Department, Karen Van Winkle and Cindy Rubino, if you guys would raise your hands, who spend most of the year putting all of this data for us together and keeping track of all of these items. And Cindy just joined our team within the last year, so this is her first time to put this report together that I handed out to you, the 2016 annual TIF report. These updates that we provide ensure compliance with state statutes that require an update every 5 years for each TIF. Instead of doing the 5-year update for each individual TIF, we provide you an update every year on all of the TIF projects as well as the other project areas I described. Throughout the year, several different reports are prepared that include information about the city's TIF projects. These reports include the report I handed out, the Adams Farm Bond Update Report, which we do annually now, and the NID Update Report. In addition to that, about April of each year, we do an MCRC annual report that's required as part of that program. This report is due to the Department of Revenue each year in November, and we wait until the audit is completed before we do a final presentation for you to make sure there are no changes to the numbers. This report is distributed, or notification of this report is distributed to each taxing entity that's affected by TIF districts within the city, as well as posted on the city's website. The guidance for the requirement of this public hearing is Section 99.865 of the Missouri Revised Statutes. Last year, we actually provided this report later in the year. It was in April because we were made aware of some noticing requirements to make sure we post this in the paper 3 consecutive weeks before we do the presentation to make sure everyone's aware that we're holding this. So we're back on our January schedule this year. This slide shows you a map of the economic development incentive districts in the city. These different districts included on the maps are TIFs, 353 redevelopment corporations, TDDs, and the CIDs. We include this and provide it on the website, city's website, and it's updated each year so people can see changes in districts or where the districts are actually located, and more specifically what the boundaries of those districts are. In addition to this map, and then the second slide too also has the rest of the districts, we have a map on the city's website that shows all the different sales tax areas within the city. So if an area or a TIF district also has a TDD or CID, it shows the sales tax rates for those areas. Some of the ordinances that were approved this year for specific projects include 2 Main Center redevelopment projects that were approved during the last fiscal year. The 2 projects represented the 10th and 11th amended Main Center redevelopment plan. These 2 projects will be included in the report for this year, and they were for the projects, Ken Billett Senior projects and the project for the old post office that is still being renovated and hasn't been completed yet. This chart shows all of the TIF areas within the city. There are a couple of new columns that we have added at the request of Councilman Fowler from last year. They include the percentage that has been reimbursed to the developer, as well as the projected payoff for that TIF area. The dates in the expected payoff column can and are often past the 23-year term of a TIF from the approved date, and that is due to project areas are often activated after the plan is approved. And there are up to 10 years that you can have after a plan is approved in order to activate a TIF area. There are 6 active TIFs within the city of Blue Springs with 13 different project areas. There are only 2 project areas that have not been activated, and those both fall within the Woods Chapel TIF district. And then looking at this, some of the highlights of this chart that may bring questions to you are the Adams Farm TIF. Last year we did a bond issue, and it was to take out the previous bonds that have been issued and also give new project reimbursable money to the developer. But as you can see from this chart, that TIF is still only 85% reimbursed. That's due to the last part of the bonds are pay-as-you-go for the developer. So all of the revenues from this TIF go to pay these bonds first. After the bonds are paid, then any money remaining gets reimbursed to the developer for the remaining 15%. Another item of note is the Copperleaf Village TIF. It shows a projected payoff in 2023, but the percent reimbursed is only 20% right now. That TIF in particular was limited to 18 years. So no matter what the percent reimbursed is at the time that 18-year period is up, the TIF will stop. So each TIF has a different story and how we got to the percent reimbursed, whether it's pay-as-you-go, and the time frame to pay it off. There's also a note that we added this year for Copperleaf Village. On the incentives, it shows that TIF and TDD. They had applied for a TDD and for that TIF area, but it was denied. So we have that noted on this chart as well. Also this year, we had 2 ordinances approved that affected the White Oak TIF. The final plat was approved for the White Oak TIF. Actually, it was last January, and then just in December, as you're aware, we approved the tax increment financing bonds for the White Oak, which is scheduled to open this summer. The Woods Chapel TIF also had 2 ordinances that were approved that affected it. There was an amended PUD concept plan, as well as approved final plat for the relocation of Quick Trip. So Quick Trip will relocate from outside of a TIF area into a TIF area. The TIF will benefit only from the revenues over the base that they earn at their current location, as well as from the CID sales tax within that TIF district. There are also a couple of future projects that we're working on. A couple of funding agreements have been approved. They were both actually approved in November for the Adams Dairy Property LLC for Lake Point, which is 104 acres on the west side of Lake Remembrance. And then a funding agreement with Ward Development for the Eagles Ridge, the commercial portion of the Eagles Ridge development in District 3, which is also in the NID. The South Area NID, just as a recap, in 2009, the city issued $18.7 million in limited obligation bonds that are repaid over 20 years through special assessments that are placed on the property tax bill. The 2016 assessments were added to 584 parcels affecting 338 different property owners. There are currently 649 active sewer-only accounts with the NID. 310 are rental and 338 are homeowner accounts. In comparison to 2011, the total number of accounts we had then were 252. So it's tripled since in the last 6 years. A total of just a little over $1 million has been written off related to properties that have been transferred to the land bank. Here is a land bank map, and the top orange parcels that are noted here, the 3 NID properties, are scheduled to be transferred to the land bank in 2017. I think you can see those right there. And then in the next year, these properties are scheduled to be transferred in this other orange area. The 2 green areas on the map, just as a reminder, are the city's parkland in the south area. At the time of the report in September that we did for the NID, there were 7 parcels scheduled to be transferred. 2 of those have now been transferred, and 5 remaining are highlighted in orange, the ones I just mentioned. The Land Bank of Blue Springs was established in March 2013. It is currently holding 34 properties. 7 are for sale. The remainder are side lots or remnants in subdivisions. Since the inception of the land bank has deeded 7 properties to the city and sold 3 properties. And that is all the information I have. If there are any questions.
Council, do you have any questions, Ms. Cates? Yes, you did a great job. Nobody's going to question you on anything. Okay, thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
We'll go to the public. Is there anyone in the audience who'd like to speak in support of? In support of? Opposition to? Opposition to? Close this public hearing. Next, we have an introduction by Councilman Carter on Bill 4466.
So I don't even need to tell you I want to introduce it?
You just say so moved.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay.
We need to approve it on first reading.
Yeah.
So we did the introduction.
Well, yeah, we introduced it, so now you need to read it, son.
We need the,
Confused him.
so we got the introduction.
We got the introduction.
So we've got Carter.
It was second back with Al.
First reading of bill.
Good, now you gotta read something, right?
Now you're tricking me. First reading of Bill Number 4466, an ordinance providing for a sales tax in the amount of 0.5% for the purpose of providing funding for local parks and calling an election on the question of whether to impose such sales tax and designating the time of holding said election.
Move the bill be approved on the first reading and proceed with the second.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion?
Your Honor,
Councilman
if I
Carter
may.
is the liaison.
Liaison to the Parks Commission. Parks Director Dennis Doval is here tonight. He's usually here for meetings, but we have quite a few of the Parks employees and Parks Commission folks as well. I think tonight is a turning point for our Parks Department and for quality of life in the city of Blue Springs. Our parks continue to fall behind. They fall to the bottom of the CIP every year, and our Parks Department does an awesome job with what they have, but they need a lot more. And what we are offering tonight to the voters is a choice on what kind of Blue Springs they want moving forward. And it's not a blank check. It's a 5-year sunset. So during that 5 years, it's incumbent on us to lay out a plan, which we've done, and then follow through with that plan because it's not nearly enough money. We're going to have to come back in 5 years. I don't want the voters to think this is 5 years and we're done. In 5 years, we're going to come back and we're going to say, here's what we did, This is what we promised. Here's where we are. Do we get another 5 years? It's how a lot of cities do it, and it's how we propose to do it in Blue Springs. But I think we have an awesome plan moving forward, and I would appreciate yes votes tonight on putting it on the ballot.
Very well stated, Councilman. Anyone else like to make any comments? Councilman Fowler.
Yes, Your Honor. I guess relative to taxes, sales tax, if we define local taxes as, you know, what is the city and fire district, I guess regardless of that, if you buy something in Blue Springs today, you're going to pay higher sales tax than you already do in Lee Summit or Independence. Blue Springs has a higher tax, sales tax, when you look at the city and the fire district combined. With that, since our citizens already pay higher taxes, I believe that it is within our capacity to take care of our parks. So I will be voting no on this.
Okay, anyone else? Councilman Culpepper?
Yes, Your Honor. I think the important thing on this is to recognize that this is to put it on a ballot. This is not saying we are going to enact a tax. This is saying we're going to give the people of Blue Springs the opportunity to vote on this issue. The cost of the ballot issue will be zero since there's already an election on that day. And these funds will be carefully scrutinized, be the responsibility. The Park Commission will oversee anything that goes out. Everything will be approved by the council or denied as it is reviewed. But to me, the big thing is we give the citizens of Blue Springs the opportunity to vote whether they want to improve their parks. And as we walk through the parks today, they are deteriorating. I think that in fact, on the news just yesterday, they were talking about how the visits to all the different parks across the nation have increased. People are using the parks. They're an important attraction to our community, and I think they define part of our way of life. So I am in favor of putting this on a ballot and giving the citizens the ability and the privilege of voting for what they want to do.
Your Honor.
Yes, Councilman Coyle.
I've spent a lot of time since we first talked about this reaching out to the constituents up in District 1 and getting feedback. And I want to say an interesting part of that reach out included making people aware of the OpenGov tool that we have. And when people came back and said, you know, I think you ought to go into your budget and take it from somewhere else, and I asked them, I said, here's the tool. Go take a look at how we spend our money and show me where you suggest we come up with $35 million out of our budget. And it was eye-opening. I've had a number of people take on that task, and they looked and they didn't find it. And although there's 2 or 3 people, the vast majority were supportive of going forward and putting this on the ballot. So I will be supporting it for those reasons.
Anyone else?
I might as well. I'm the last one, I think. I'm not all in favor of imposing sales tax on our citizens. There's a lot of citizens that are fixed incomes that maybe can't afford that. But as Councilman Culpepper pointed out, all we're doing is allowing the citizens to vote it up or vote it down. We're giving them the right to voice their opinion, and that's one thing I always stand on, is the citizens have a right to voice their opinion, either in this council or at the poll. So in supporting this, what I'm doing is giving the opportunity for the citizens to step forward and say, yes, we want better parks, yes, we want improvements, giving them the opportunity to speak, as opposed to us sitting up here and making judgment on that. And so therefore, I'm voting in favor of it.
Well, you know, as you take a look at the budget, the Parks Department has become victim to streets. There was an outcry that we wanted better streets, so the City Council dedicated more money for street repairs. And when you dedicate more money for street repairs, something's going to suffer. What suffered? The parks, because you don't drive on them. So that's one issue. The other issue is Blue Springs is the major city that's the gateway into the greater Kansas City area. And we have a lot of people that get off the interstate in Blue Springs, and when they spend money in Blue Springs, guess what? They're helping pay for our parks. When we go to Independence or Lee Summit and we spend money, we're helping their cities because they already have a parks tax. So, and that's one of the things that with sales tax, not just the citizens of Blue Springs are paying for those amenities that our Blue Springs people can enjoy. You have other people. A lot of people in Green Valley, where do they do their shopping? In Blue Springs, Oak Grove, Concordia, Odessa. They're helping pay for those amenities that our citizens can enjoy in Blue Springs. So needless to say, you know where I stand on this issue. That being said, we've had a motion, we've had a second, we've had discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no.
No.
Second reading.
Second reading of Bill Number 4466, an ordinance providing for a sales tax in the amount of 0.5% for the purpose of providing funding for local parks and calling an election on the question of whether to impose such sales tax and designating the time of holding said election.
Move the bill be approved on the second reading and assign the appropriate ordinance
Is there
number.
a second?
Second.
Further discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Councilman Fowler?
No.
Councilman Carter?
Aye.
Councilman Edmondson?
Aye.
Councilman Culpepper?
Aye.
Councilman Quabell?
Aye.
Mayor Ross?
Aye.
Carried with a vote of 5 to 1, given ordinance number 4639.
Thank you. Next, we have introduction and reading of Bill 4467.
I'll introduce it, Your Honor.
Okay.
First reading of Bill Number 4467, an ordinance approving final plat for Timothy Lutheran Church, Lot 3.
Move the bill be approved on its first reading and proceed with the second.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Second reading of Bill Number 4467, an ordinance approving final plat for Timothy Lutheran Church, Lot 3.
Move the bill be approved on its second reading and assign the appropriate ordinance number.
Second?
Second.
Discussion? Roll call, please.
Councilman Carter?
Aye.
Councilman Edmondson?
Aye.
Councilman Culpepper?
Aye.
Councilman Quabell?
Aye.
Councilman Fowler?
Aye.
Mayor Ross?
Aye.
Carried unanimously, given ordinance number 4640.
Next, we have construction manager at risk. Oh, Adam's going to do that. Okay.
Thank you. At the October 17th City Council meeting, SFS Architecture made a presentation about the conceptual design of a city hall, and in that, they outlined the next steps and then what that process would look like, which included engaging a construction manager at risk. So state statutes recently enacted outline very specific steps a city or public entity must take in the selection of a construction manager at risk. This process includes publicly disclosing at a regular meeting of the city's intent of utilizing the construction manager at risk method, and also outlining the selection criteria that will be used. And we need to do this at least 1 week prior to publishing this request for our qualifications. So the selection criteria would include project understanding, project approach, relevant experience, staffing, and availability. So the purpose of this presentation is to fulfill this public meeting disclosure requirement of the state statute. The next steps in this process would be that the RFQ will be posted on the city's website and in the newspapers beginning on January 24th, with responses due February 7th at 4 p.m. And at that time, city staff will open all the responses to the RFQ in the East Conference Room at City Hall.
Is that it?
That is it.
All right, thank you for that. Construction manager at risk report. That brings us to mayoral announcements. I will continue to preach the sermon on Stop the Killings. We meet 2 times a month. In between the times that we meet, if you listen, watch the news, there continue to be an enormous amount of killings that include police officers. And the thing that really gets me is when babies are killed in drive-by shootings. People shooting in houses, don't know who they're going to hit, and a lot of time it ends up being our babies, our youth. And it needs to stop. The other thing is I was blessed and honored last night to receive an award at the Olathe NAACP Annual Scholarship and Awards Dinner, where I received the Legacy Award. So that was a blessing and an honor to receive that award. Thoughts to ponder. Tonight is more of an acknowledgement. Kudos to Missouri Governor Eric Greitens, who had only been in office 4 days, did something refreshing that I have not experienced in my 9 years as mayor. He actually called me on my cell phone and left me a voicemail, because I turned my cell phone off a lot of times at night, about the forecast of the ice storm coming to the state of Missouri and how he has engaged all the departments, the highway department, the highway patrol, with the state's preparedness for this ice storm that was coming. And I had to listen closely, and he offered his support, and he actually mentioned to the city of Blue Springs, and he actually mentioned me by name, Mayor Ross. So it wasn't one of those coin voicemails you can just send to everybody, hey, Mayor, we're going to be there for you. Mayor Ross of Blue Springs, and pledging the state support for Blue Springs. That's getting off to a good start, folks. And I want to give him the credit for it. So, thoughts to ponder was acknowledgement of our new governor. That brings us to visitors. I don't have any visitors appearance forms. So we will go to our city attorney for a motion for someone, probably more than likely, Councilman Carter, to so move.
Motion for the council to go into closed session pursuant to section 610.021, subparagraphs 2 and 3 and 12, revised statutes of Missouri, for the purpose of privileged communications between a governmental body or its representative and legal counsel relating to real estate, personnel issues, and contract negotiations, and that any minutes, documents, and other records discussed or taken during the closed session remain closed, and that this body stand adjourned at the completion of such session.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilman Carter?
Aye.
Councilman Edmondson?
Aye.
Councilman Culpepper?
Aye.
Councilman Quabell?
Aye.
Councilman Fowler?
Aye.
Mayor Ross?
Aye.
Carried unanimously.
You can sit around and visit. The council is going to be excused to our executive conference room for the executive session. Thank you for being here.